Hey everybody, welcome to 3D6 Charge, a podcast about competitive Warhammer 40k, the state of the game, and community news. We are streaming live right now at twitch.tv/3d6charge every Monday night at 7:30 p.m. Eastern, where you can follow and sub. We're also anywhere that you can find podcasts like Spotify and iTunes. This is episode 44, New Admech, Processing Error. I'm your host, Chris Vo, and joining me today is Kevin Lieb.
Howdy, howdy.
And Benjamin Rubenstein.
Hello, everyone.
Right, so a lot of new stuff in the works this week. Obviously we're going to be talking about the new Admech codex, which has a lot of stuff in it and might be the most complicated codex released so far. And but before we get to that, go over some community news. Warhammer Plus is a thing now. GW saw the money that people like Disney and Fox and Netflix were making and decided they wanted to get in on the action too, despite not really having any animation or shows to work off of, but they're working on that. They showed off like the first 5 minutes of Angels of Death. So what do you guys think about Warhammer Plus? It's going to be a premium subscription like streaming service where you can see. I think they had other stuff too. The like full announcement isn't out yet. They just made the announcement of the announcement.
So kind of similar to the app, I'm going to initially subscribe to it. If it turns out not to be great, that's unfortunate. But I do want to start by like trusting in them, giving them a little bit of money, so that they know that it's worth continuing to invest into. I think the greatest shame would be, um, it's a bit of a flop and like something great could be lost, even if that even if it doesn't initially come out great. We want to show them that it's worth them pursuing it.
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
there's something to be said for that.
my understanding is that for some of these animations, and correct me if I'm wrong, they've actually hired some of the people who are doing like fan animations already.
Mhm.
Is that correct?
Yeah, they've been
Yep.
scooping those guys up left and right.
Yeah, because for the most part, like, there's some really excellent 40k fan animation out there, and if GW just wants to like literally give them money to do more of that, I think that's excellent. I'm all for it.
Yeah, so
No,
they scooped up Sayama Peterson, the guy who did the Stardies
Yeah.
series. They picked up the guy on YouTube, Sodas, who kind of did like more memey animations. Memorable is probably like the Imperial Fists doing the Gondan dancing pallbearers. That whole thing. And just a whole bunch of like silly shit like that. But they picked him up. Those are the two big ones.
The Stardust guy alone, like I'll pay money to make sure he's supported and can keep making content. Like,
Oh, I mean, I already paid him money directly on Patreon. I enjoyed his work so much. And if subscribing to Warhammer Plus is going to be a continuation of that, like Kevin said, I'm on board at least to at least show GW that the interest is there. If the product ends up being ass, like the official Warhammer app right now, then unsub if you're getting your money. But at least that initial thing shows them like, hey, there's the desire is there, and then oh wait, look at this like 90% drop off after month 1. We're doing something wrong there and not retaining those customers. It'll show them that the demand is there, and if they're doing anything grossly wrong.
Yeah, I think they're doing it right though, right? Like the baseline is they're starting with streamers who've already proven, or rather content creators who've already proven themselves to be competent animation creators and have created previously popular 40k themed products and now can monetize that through, actually having GW's full backing.
Also, like they're getting people already into the game, so they kind of like can answer some of the questions. Like, imagine if you just get a random animator out of the blue, they might have a lot of questions like, "What is 40k? How do I animate this?" They might need more direction. You get someone who already like is ingrained in the setting. You get a
Yeah,
lot less question, you get a lot better quality.
yeah, I agree. And just being ingrained in that, first off, the passion comes across in the work, like 1,000%. And then secondly, you avoid the whole CS Godo thing where, everybody has a multi laser and Terminators do backflips. Yeah.
I don't know what that is, but
CS Godo
I'll
is
assume it was
is
silly.
a writer for Black Library. Dude fucking loves multi lasers. They're on anything and everything, even though they're a pretty really rare weapon. And yeah, Terminators do backflips in his.
Hmm.
Okay, sure.
I mean, creative
Um,
liberties and
Be
all,
less
but like,
excited to watch those.
uh, that being said, I do think there might be a little bit of loss of from a getting new people into the lore. This definitely seems like they're hoping to capitalize on like diehard fans, where maybe one or two of them being free just to kind of get people interested might be good. Because if they really scoop up all the like free content creators, how are you gonna get the people who'd be getting into the hobby because of those free content creators?
that's a pretty good point because I know, like, because Astartes was like a tour de force on YouTube. It was like putting up like on the whole overall trending page. I saw multiple other channels, not completely unrelated to Warhammer or miniatures or wargaming in general, like doing like React videos are like a whole other thing entirely. But I mean, it just goes to show that it was gaining a lot of traction outside of this very niche community.
Hmm.
Right.
Yeah, I was definitely able to show some people who are like tangentially know 40k, not even the biggest 40k fans that series, and like they were like, "Wow, that was a good watch."
Yeah,
Yeah.
They had a lot of questions, but that's kind of it's like good, like they're interested enough to want to ask questions.
Yeah, I think it would have to be a pretty extreme takeoff of the platform for it to literally suck all of the content creators off of YouTube and all those places. Um, and if it does do that, well, obviously it's a huge success, and they can probably figure out how to make some amount of it free to get new players in. Uh, I'm all for it. I think this is gonna be a good. I think this is a good plan. It's a good idea.
yeah. So really, the gist of what I think we're saying is more is better. Um, just be careful not to cannibalize your own market. But growth is growth.
Yeah, I'm excited to see how it goes.
Yeah.
That'll be anything else you guys want to hit on before we move to our main topic?
Um.
Something I wanted to talk about before we got on to Admech in
Sure.
its entirety. So I've been seeing a lot of posts about people who are like, "Well, Jakari might be doing really well, but Admech's gonna come and like balance it out." I'm just like, I I don't think people realize why that's not necessarily a good thing. Um, Maybe the way Admech beats Shikari is in a way that like the other factions can then beat Admech. But if that's like not the case, then Admech can beat Jakari just because it's like of a higher tier. Um, we're
That's
in a,
codex creep.
that's like very bad codex creep. I did the numbers and Jakari is back up to a 75% win rate.
Sick.
Not it's
Right where they should be. Nice even number.
hmm
3/4.
Is that accounting for mirror matches or no?
That's not accounting for mirror matches. No, the win percentage has gone down again, Chris. But
Yeah,
not but
it's because we fixed it, right?
we fix it. No, there's just more people playing Jakari, so we're getting
What's
closer
their
to that 50.
what's their meta percentage up to? Not to ask you for random data.
Uh, I They were 12 of the 93 lists that played this weekend.
So like we'll round up
Uh,
to 100. So 12%. 10%. A lot.
No, it's
13%.
yeah, 13%.
Sure.
So yeah, given all like historical like parity of Bari, yeah, that's a pretty sizable chunk of what we're seeing right
Mm,
now. I mean, I know, so it's not all doom and gloom. I know like some There have been like some pretty notable Space Marine top 4 finishes. People were saying stick a fork in them, they're done. But Space Marines are still chugging along, winning events, and not just one particular action. Saw White Scars win an event last weekend.
Yeah,
Ultras
but that White
won.
Scars list didn't actually play against Drakari.
All right, that's a fair point. And now that you say that, I don't know if these Ultras place.
So people
Drakari.
are playing Ultramarines because they think they have a reasonable Drakari matchup, which might be true. They're very good at like medium range anti-infantry firepower. They're just gonna like pick up anything that falls out of a boat. Um, but I'm not particularly interested in a meta that is just Drakari and things that beat Drakari. Like Ultramarines specifically have a good Drakari matchup, and you are priced into playing them if you want to play Marines right now because Drakari are kind of just walking over other factions of Marines. Like you can't beat Drakari if you're a melee oriented army. They just make you fight less and kill you in melee. Um,
Well, that's gonna be a popular theme.
yeah.
Coming,
Okay.
coming
Speaking
soon.
of speaking of making you fight less and killing you in melee, we'll talk about that in a second. Um, spoilers. Um,
That might be their best strat.
yeah. All right. So with that transition, do you wanna move to Admech, or do
Yeah.
actually? Sorry, Kevin. Let you finish your point. So the thing is, right? You were trying to say,
Oh, right.
yes, Admech might be a counter to Drakari, but that's not like necessarily a good thing.
Correct. It maybe if it's like certain factions can come and beat Admech, and so we can kind of have like a 3-way faction, but like a 3-way kind of setup. But I am concerned that Admech is powerful in the way Drakari is powerful, and that like there are one or two things that probably need to get in errata, and then they're also 10% too efficient. Um,
Yeah. I also.
luckily, the,
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
there, luckily there might be a tool to fix that.
Yeah. So I personally struggle a little bit when we talk about three-way, like, oh, this list beats that list, that list beats this list, this list beats that list. That's something we're very used to seeing in Magic the Gathering. And in Magic the Gathering, it's usually like something between like four and well, it used to be something between 4 and like 10 decks that were good in the format. And each deck would be hovering around a 50% win rate, and like its best matchups against some other deck in the format would be 70%. And you kind of have like the circle, like this deck's good against that deck's good against that, and everyone will be pretty much anyone who's planning on winning the event will be playing some version of one of these 10 things. Um, and in Magic, where you can just buy a deck, like literally on the internet, show up and play with it. Like, yeah, you have to practice with it. That's fine, but there's so much less investment in that than there is in 40K, where people have spent literal days of their lives getting their armies ready, and sometimes GW is like, we don't like Tau, so we're gonna nerf them. I'm still salty about Tau. I will always be salty about Tau until we get our new codex. Um, and Tau might be a bad example, but like, I don't know, even let's just look at like Space Marines. Like there are Space Marine factions that are already falling off of being in the top half of the meta, and that book is like brand new. They should not be. If the idea is that the 9th edition codexes are going to be a step above, it is concerning that those books are already not being able to keep up. And we just don't want to be in a place where you can spend that much time on an army, and your army might only be eligible to play for a couple weeks, couple months. But as Kevin alluded to, GW just announced a new chapter approved. So actually, we should probably talk about that a little bit because that's big news.
Oh right, I totally
Um,
forgot that got announced. Yeah, new chapter approved is coming out. New points are coming out.
More importantly, new mission. I mean, maybe not more importantly, but new missions is also like a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And yeah, the last couple of chapter approves that they've done, the GT packs, they've been very solid. And the book itself, like the physical book itself, is actually like really nice and like
Yeah,
convenient to have. So it's one of the few GW books where I say it's actually a good buy and you should buy it. But
yeah. I
yeah,
don't know whoever at GW was like, hey, what if we put all the rules in a thing that could fit in your pocket? Like, give that guy a raise. Like that
and
was
give
that
it
was
like an elastic
genius.
band and like a bookmark thing, and like I think it's ring bound so that it can actually like unfold like nicely. Yeah, give that
Yeah,
guy a raise.
yeah.
So
It was an excellent idea.
so one quick caveat: I've purchased the original GT pack and two Crusade books, and all of them have the core rulebooks in them, and I'm pretty sure the terrain also has the core rules in them, like 50 pages of core rules and all that. While I like that it's there, I'm kind of getting tired that this is going to be like the sixth book I've purchased that has 50 pages of core rules, and I kind of like, I don't know. I get the desire to be there, but at a certain point, I'm like kind of getting tired for paying. Because I'm definitely paying a little bit of premium for those rules that I've purchased multiple
Technically
times.
speaking, the core rules are free, so you're not paying for shit. You're just paying for pages
Physical
of dirt.
paper costs money, and they have to make that money back. But yeah, I think that GW has a chance to, now that we've started, because the last time we had a chapter approved came out, it came out at just about the same time as the first 9th edition codexes, and GW didn't really have a lot of data to go on. And now we're seeing how the 9th edition design process is going. I think GW can make a real attempt at just fixing some factions that do not have 9th edition codexes yet.
Yeah, and I think chat has a good point, and new secondaries would be very helpful in trying to just maybe like even out the playing field, because for some factions, like while we stand, we fight is like a no-brainer auto take, but
Yeah.
some factions just like there are whole like sections of secondary categories of secondaries that some factions don't even like get a good pick on.
Yeah, yeah. The fact that most armies give up no kill secondaries at all means that a lot you basically have to have 3 secondaries that are good for your army. And if you don't have a bunch of like small deep striking infantry squads that can do actions for raised banners and get in all the corners for regional fronts, and sorry, I said raised banners. I meant deploy scramblers. And then either like a psychic character to do some psychic secondaries, or fast moving infantry to raise banners, build a table, or like you just need an army that can just pick 3 secondaries out of that book, and some armies just literally can't, and that's like where they fall flat. Um,
Yeah, and I think new secondaries in the GT book would also help address faction specific secondaries. Not that like the faction specific secondaries are like super overpowered or easy 15 points every time. It's
they're
just
pretty
that
good though.
they are all right. So when they're good, they're good. But it's just that not every faction has them yet.
The issue
So
isn't that they're like, oh, every time you pick it, you get 15 points. It's that most of them you don't have to think about. Like most books have at least one faction secondary that they can pick and just be like, this will happen, and then they don't have to think about it, and they can just play a normal game and score some number of points on it without ever looking
Oh,
at
you
it.
mean like the Space Marines in Oaths of Moment, where it's
Yeah,
just
like this will happen.
exist.
Like I'll kill vehicles, I'll kill characters, and if there's an objective in the middle of the table,
I
I'm going
will
to be
not
standing on it
fail.
anyway.
Yeah, I will not fail a morale test. I will not
they
fall back. The only faction that doesn't pick Oaths of Moment is White Scars. Chat saying, yeah, he plays Harlequins, and picking a solid third secondary is hard if the opponent doesn't give up kills. And given the current meta, nobody that many kills.
Yeah, well, Drakari at least gives up grind them down against most factions, which is nice. Um, like that's like the one thing that the army's weak against is like there is just a secondary that you just take every time against them, which is grind them down. Because if you're not grinding them down, so you're losing heinously. They have like a million units, and you need to be chipping away at them to not just get tabled.
is it
Um,
bad that I'm like, you're probably not? I've seen a few games, and it's like Jakari just like has the opponent tabled by turn 3, and it's like,
yeah, yeah, you're gonna score it every turn you're on the table, but like that may not be 5 turns. They do table people. I think, yeah, so I think that point changes in secondaries are more interesting than new missions. Like, yeah, you can change where objectives are, you can change the mission secondaries. I hope we don't get any more missions where the secondary is like literally free. Um, because that mission just feels super boring for factions that already have 1 or 2 secondaries that are free. Because then you're just like, all right, my opponent's literally going to score 45 points by sitting like their 5 Dark Angels on that back objective. Like they're going to score the Dark Angel secondary, they're going to score the mission secondary. This is hold the objective that's deep in your deployment zone, and then they're going to while we stand we fight with their like 8-man Terminator blob that's like on that secondary and their 2 characters. Um, at the same time, yeah, it's like Chad's saying too. A lot of the mission secondaries are never takes, and they're like hilariously bad. They're not just like, oh, you have to do an action in the center of the table while your opponent's not within 6 inches of it. Like, no, you have to start your turn holding an enemy objective while not in melee, uncontested on the objective. Like, so I
and
tabled my opponent,
your
right? Like,
guys have to live until your next turn.
yeah, like Okay, sure. Like, I don't know why
Just
you
a
bothered
whole bunch
printing
of
this. Just say there's no
impossible
mission
conditions.
secondary. Um,
I also hope we
yeah,
don't get ones like the Scouring where it's like, here are 5 objectives, none of them in your deployment zone. Also, it's a hold 2, hold 3. It's like,
yeah.
oh,
Hopefully you're really aggressive, because if you're not, yikes. The
don't get me wrong. I don't want 40K to ever become a gunline game, but at the same time,
Ben
I
does.
don't think gunline should need to like throw half their army at their opponents every turn too, in order to like get 5 points on the primary.
yeah, so yeah, the first faction that comes to mind for me, the like factions that can just get fixed with points, would be orcs. But orcs are going to actually get a new codex, so that's not going to be here. So I think the factions that stand to like actually get brought into a reasonable place in ninth edition with points the most, in my mind, are Chaos Space Marines, Thousand Suns sort of being a caveat to that, and Tau, and can't think of what's a couple other ones that might need a couple points adjustments that are way out of whack right now. Yeah, the two that jumped out to me are like Chaos Space Marines. Their troop choices just need to get completely fixed. Their troop choices are hilariously overcosted compared to what troops in other factions are doing right now.
Mm.
How everything's overcosted in Zhao. Like literally every model except for maybe broadsides are overcosted, but it turns out you can only take 9 broadsides, and then the rest of your army is still just wildly overcosted. And broadsides aren't even that good in the ninth edition meta. So the I just think that fixing some of the old 8th edition codexes before they get their books is just going to make the meta a lot more interesting.
Yeah. Speaking of making the meta more interesting, want to talk about Admech now? 20 minutes into the show.
Sure, let's talk
Yeah.
about Admech.
All right. So the Adeptus Mechanicus, their book goes on pre-order this.
Yep.
Yeah, so it goes on pre-order. Like review copies have gone out. If you look in the right places in the dark web or the web, you find
You can
specs.
just, you can just go to YouTube and people review the codexes. It's fair because GW wants people to get excited about new content.
Yeah.
I think the first place to start with this codex is it is the most complicated codex I think I've ever read.
I'm with you there.
Yeah, I think this is more complicated than any codex before it. I'm trying to think of other codexes that have dropped out, and I don't think there is one. I think our most complicated codex up until this point was it's either Dark Eldar or maybe Necrons, and Drakar, and then Admech just blowing out of the water. There's so much going on. There's some like pretty silly tables going around on the internet of like what can buff what. There's like 11 different keywords. There's Cataphrons, Castellan robots, core, Skitari, vehicle. Each of these things can be buffed by a different HQ. Some models have multiples of these keywords. To make things super simple, Castellan robots can sometimes be core and sometimes not be core. So they can sometimes get some things and sometimes not get them. Then there's like specific warlord traits that affect only certain things. Some warlord traits affect any Skitari. Some warlord traits only affect core. Some warlord traits only affect core Skitari. Some warlord traits only affect core infantry. Some auras are like your model can pretend to be infantry, but is not actually infantry for the purposes of other things. It is absurdly complex. And then they have army-wide rules that they have 2 different army-wide rules, one of which affects Skitari and one of which affects some other things. But if you're playing Mars, then the Canticles does affect Skitari. It's wild. The book is heinously complex. So with that in mind, we are not building full lists because I think there's just way too much going on to actually talk about everything in a list in like a reasonable way. So we're going to talk about some highlights, some things that jump out at us, and some things that we think are going to either see a lot of play and things that we should all be aware of as people who plan on playing against or with this codex in the near future.
Yeah. So I want to just expand and say we're not doing the list because it's one thing to like see a book and try to put together an early list, and like you can be on the money, like 80% of the way there, based on a first read of a book, on it a little bit. But this book, with all of like the crazy shit that Ben said, um, basically, I don't think anybody's gonna have a really crack this book for maybe like another like weeks or so, like once people really start to like digest it and like what are the most efficient combos and stuff.
I think someone's going to crush a GT a year from now with a list from this book that no one's thought of. Like, it's so deep.
To be fair, like Rashad Naden regularly like does like crazy ass lists anyway with like armies that are as complicated as Admech. So, yeah, so like I totally agree. Like, somebody's gonna come out of here out of left field in a year, and the medal will be like, I don't know, like Cataphrons with like from or some shit, and then somebody's gonna be like, oh, we're just gonna do a bunch of chicken walkers from Metallica, who everybody thought was gonna be forced forge, and it's gonna cause a run on chicken.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Oh, go
So,
ahead.
and real quick, one of the things I want to note out is like when we're talking about like kind of like there being like two kind of buffs, like there's canticles and there's doctrinas, and what buffs each of those. Trying to look at that from like a reading a list perspective as your opponent. If you like everyone who wants to like play 40k competitively is going to need to sit down, buy an buy an Admech book, and just flip through things so they don't get got. It's like
Dude,
there's a
Admech
lot.
players are going to get got by themselves.
Mm-hmm. All right, but starting off
Well,
with that.
sorry, real quick. Chris, chat's saying your audio is cutting in and out. I'm not hearing it, but I want to double check the thing that's going to Twitch.
Yeah, I'm checking it. I noticed it too.
So let's really quickly talk about some of the important things about how they get access to their powerful rules. So kind of like Space Marines and like everything we've seen so far. If you're playing mono Admech or mostly on Admech, we'll get to the little caveat there in a second. You get access to these doctrinas and canticles. Canticles affect non-Scutari. Doctrinas affect Scutari. Um, you can mix and match detachments. You can be like, I'm part Graia and I'm part Ryza. Or sorry, not the detachment. You can have a detachment of Graia and a detachment of Ryza and still get access to these things. What is affecting your units? Like if you're saying like Shroud Song is active, you get one. Everyone's affected by Shroud Song. It's not like you get to pick for each attachment. This is important because in some ways you can think about building a list as like I can have my detachments that's focused on melee and they're going to eat the dogma buffs or sorry doctrina buffs, and I'm going to have my faction that's focused on shooting and they're going to eat the canticle buffs, and that's like one way you could think about doing the building
I didn't
for
think about that. That's pretty good.
um that one little caveat, by the way. If you're pure Admech, you have to bring one auxiliary detachment that you can put one knight in, and it gets the Knight of the Cog. And Knight of the Cog is essentially a neutral. It doesn't break your super buff rules.
Yep.
It will still cost the normal 3 CP, so it's kind of like bringing a Baneblade, but a knight. Hurrah!
It's a big stompy
Um,
Baneblade.
um,
Yeah,
so
so let's talk about doctrinas real quick because they're very important. Um, there's only 4 of them, and they're actually very simple because they're paired. So a doctrina gives you a bonus and a penalty. So one is +1 on saves and -3 movement. The other one is +3 movement, -1 on saves. Keep in mind that when you go into a doctrina, this is just hitting your whole army. And then there's +1 to hit, or sorry, +1 ballistic skill, -1 weapon skill, and then that flipped. +1 weapon skill, -1 ballistic skill. So you're gonna pick one of these things, and that's gonna affect your whole army. You cannot go back and pick one that you've already picked. Of note, there's only 4 of them, so you're not going to have one active for one of the turns. You can pick which turn it's going to be. You can also, if you don't want to, for example, give your whole army -1 save for a turn, which I think will be a pretty popular choice. You might just pick 3 and then leave that one out forever, or just slam it on the last turn or the last battle round to get your last couple models where they really need to be to score points in the last turn.
Mhm.
Mechanicals, there's a lot of them. We're not going to talk about all of them. They affect vehicles and non-Skitarii, unless you play Mars, in which case they do affect Skitarii, and that's worth noting. So mechanicals are affecting tech priests, electro priests, right?
Mhm.
And then what are the other things that they're hitting?
Robots,
Robots.
selling robots, breachers, any of the servitor things,
Sorry,
right?
the Cataphrone, yeah, the Cataphrone destroyers and preachers. Okay,
Um,
that might be it.
that might be it.
Yeah, and then Mars things with the Skitarii keyword. All right. And actually, am I wrong? Do they affect electro priests? No, I can't think of it. They might.
Tentacles affect electro priests.
Okay, cool.
Sorry, yeah.
Um, so the 2 ones that like kind of jump out to me are your advances and charges roll an extra d6 and you drop 1, and whenever you shoot, you can re-roll a hit roll, a wound roll, and a damage roll. Uh, just like the Doctrinas, you can only pick 1 canonical. And once you pick it, it goes away. There's no more rolling for cannicles, that's just gone. Call's thing is now he picks a unit within, I believe it's 6 of himself, and he changes which canonical is active for them and which canonical is active for himself, and he is allowed to go back and pick a canonical that's already been used. So he can mess with canonicals in a very powerful way because he's allowed to go. You could, for example, if you're just like, I want my las cannon chicken walkers to be rerolling hit rolls, wound rolls, and damage rolls the entire game, you could just do that. You could just, yeah, all right, whole game, rerolling hit rolls, wound rolls, and damage rolls. They're going to use that canonical for all 5 turns. And he's going to babysit them.
It's also worth noting that Call is now a Supreme Commander. He has a bunch of auras and buffs that affect
Anyone?
everything. He still does have one Mars specific rule, which is pick a core within Mars core within 6, and they get Chapter Master reroll hit rolls.
Yep. And then, so Call's your way of messing with cannicles. You have a way of messing with doctrinas as well. The new Admech, the new like Skitarii, like sergeant guy.
He's
Or
a
I guess
lieutenant.
he's lieutenant. Yeah, he has the rules of 1 aura, and then he also can pick a unit. I believe it's within 9 of himself. And that unit ignores the penalty for the doctrina. Also, anything in this book that tells you to pick a Skitarii within 9 of yourself also has the caveat that I can hit any Skitarii on the table if they have a data tether. So,
Or within 6 inches of something with a broad spectrum data tether, so like things on Dune crawlers, you can in your command phase pick something within 6 inches and they get the broad spectrum rule. So it's
right.
not just things with broad spectrums, it's things with data tethers, it's also things with broad spectrum data tethers near them.
Yeah. Let's talk about something that I was not ready for. Skitarii infantry now go up to 20 men blobs. You can just put 20 rangers or 20 vanguard in the same detachment, or sorry, the same unit.
I don't like it.
No, why not?
I think it's very good. I don't like that design choice.
What's the
You just
why were
not
you
like
against
it?
swords?
Um, so they added a bunch of big defensive buffs in a lot of ways to multiply damage that didn't scale with size, or when they did scale with size, it was like power level 10 or greater, and it's like it turns out the 20-man blobs weren't there on the 20-year
Oh,
grid.
gotcha. So you're just concerned you're like stacking buffs on them.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Um,
It's fair.
like there's a
Buffs should be
faction that
stacked.
says you can get +1 to save if you're Lucius has +1 to save if you're being shot by damage 1 weapons. They also have a thing that says you're either in light cover, or if you already are in light cover, you get +2 to your saves. So now they're getting +3 of their saves against bolt guns. They also can have a ability of ignore AP 1 and 2. So now all of a sudden you're like
You up
uh,
basically against everything.
your intercessors with their AP 2 bolt guns are going up against Terminator 8-point models. It's like
Yeah, you're just bouncing off of them.
there's a problem there.
Yeah, that's super fair. there's also 2 stratagems that work for Skitari. So the Ranger gun is now a heavy 2 at 30 inches at 4 neg 1/1. And for 2 CP, you can actually turn it back into rapid fire, but it's now rapid fire 2. So those 20 guys are making 40 shots. Of note, let's talk about the HQs for a second too, because one of the HQs can now on that Skitari unit give them +6 inches on their range and +1 armor penetration. So now it's 40 shots to AP2. One of the factions lets you get an extra armor penetration within half range. I wouldn't be surprised if we see that faction seeing some play. So you're gonna have these like 20 Skitari kind of just like walk up and just be like, all right, like here's 40 shots at 4 neg 3/1. Like this is my 160 point infantry unit. Like, geez. And then the one that actually like really worries me is the Vanguard. The Vanguard have a stratagem that they're is it modified or unmodified? It's unmodified, right? Unmodified 4-ups to hit, automatically wound against non-vehicles. I see this being used 2 ways. Again, there's the extra AP faction. You give them the +6 inches and the +1 AP from the tech priest manipulates. You try and get them within 12 inches. That's just gonna be like 15 AP2 wounds. The other one is in Mars with Call, where you're just gonna pick them as your unit you're rerolling all your hit rolls on, and your 75% of your attacks just go right to wounding. The guns are strength 3, but whatever. When you just like actually automatically wound with 75% of your shots, and that's you're just gonna leaf blower things away.
The more we talk about them and the more I think about them, the less I'm thinking we're even going to do this net of the cog thing, because it turns out paying 3 CP, I think Admech are going to be like every CP is super valuable.
Yeah, I think their stratagems are incredible, and they're not interested in spending CP on knights. So a couple other things. Let's talk about the chicken walkers for a second. There's no strats that are like particularly interesting with the shooty ones, but they're so heinously efficient. They did not go up in points for their new weapon profiles. They just got them for free.
Well, I missed
Can
that.
you remind me the point costs and what that new weapon is?
I believe they are 65 points. The autocannon is 6 shots at 7 neg 1/2, and the last cannon is 2 shots at 9 neg 3 D3 +3. 2 shots.
How many points again?
The autocannons are 65. I want to say the last cannons are 75, but I could be forgetting that.
How many dollars are they?
They are a fair number of real life points. I think it's like a $40 box.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah, they were already a popular unit. The autocannon ones, everyone already has a bunch of autocannon ones. The strat that made the autocannon ones better went away, but it turns out they just got 50% more firepower, so whatever.
They're P5 6 wounds apiece, right?
Yeah.
3 up armor. And a lot of they have advanced bionics, right?
Yeah, I believe 5 of them vulnerable saves. I could be wrong though.
Yeah, so
no, they're just in the 6-ups.
Okay. Unfortunate.
Yeah, they have 6 wounds, toughness 6, 3-up saves. Yeah, it's really good. I can't believe the gun's assault 6. And then
having the gun be assault 6 is like, I get it. Cognus weapons are better, but
yeah. And then there's also a melee version that are 4 attacks with Taser Lance. The Taser Lance is strength 8, AP2, 2 damage. With the 6s to hit 3 times. And then for 1 CP, you can actually get 5s and 6s to hit 3 times. This is very good. Oh, also, super important. This unit is core. They are a core vehicle, which means that they are a core vehicle Skitari, which means that they are eligible for pretty much every buff in the book that we've been talking about so far. Like everything just works on them. You can get them down to negative 1-up armor. You can get them actually that's not quite true, but you can get them to 2-up armor, ignoring AP 1 and 2. You can get them to reroll like I said, you could have them rerolling if they're in Mars. If they are if they're Ryza, they get some really silly bonuses. You can get them rerolling charges in Mars. It's or rather rolling extra dice and charges on Mars. There's so much power behind this unit. I couldn't possibly tell you how you're supposed to run them right now.
But I'm fairly convinced you're supposed to be running them.
Oh yeah, you put them in your army. I'm just not sure. Like, is it like 3 units of 3? Is it 3 units of 5? You just go like, here's a I'm just gonna spend 3 CP on a fast attack unit, bring no troops, 1 HQ, and 20 of the melee ones and 20 of the shooty ones.
Yeah, no, I was about to say it kind of seems
that
like
might be an army. That might be an actual thing that people have to play against in like a couple months.
Yeah, I was gonna say this seems like well, how many can you afford? That's the real limiting factor here.
Yeah.
And both in points and real life points.
I think I don't know about real life points being like a limitation for like most armies, practically speaking. So much as like, can you source them? Like they're sold out everywhere. You can't get them right now.
They moved 10, 12?
10, I believe they moved 12.
Okay.
They moved 10. They moved
10. Okay. So speaking of the whole, you might want your Skitari to be doing one thing and not. They move fast enough that like, if you want that +1 save, -3 inches of movement, there's still like you spend the first turn actually moving up, into the second turn they're on +1 save.
Yeah.
Like,
alternatively, just run the shooting ones, and 7 inches is still more than the average shooting unit moves.
Mm-hmm.
Or again, Skitari and Marshall, just give them both. Give them +3 inches of movement. Ignore the penalty. Throw them at your opponent.
Or bring both units, and one unit, the melee unit doesn't get the penalty. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's yep, yeah, exactly. Make your whole army fight better, and then pick the one shooting unit to ignore the penalty, and just go nuts.
Okay, so what is the actual like downside to taking these units?
This unit?
Yeah.
It is a squadron of vehicles. You're giving up 1 bring it down point for everyone that dies. They only have 6 wounds. So if you're playing like actually 20 of them, your opponent can just like take a secondary where every model in your army is worth a point.
They can't use Admech's new best stratagem.
Which was that? Oh god. We'll
Fight
talk
left.
about that. Yeah. All right, let's talk about that stratagem, Kevin.
Let's go there.
This is where I'm like kind of concerned that like the supposed second batch of codexes might just be what Space Marines was the original 8th edition. Like,
I mean,
it's
if
1
you look at
CP.
Stygies, it kind of is for like at least for how Raven Guard and Alpha Legion worked.
Oh no, I mean like from a power level creep perspective, Chris.
Then yes, absolutely.
So it's 1 CP, pick a core. Oh no, it says core, right?
They can use the stratagem. Yeah, they're eligible for the strat.
I don't know what I'm sorry, forgive me for.
Yeah, I got confused. You made me question, so I had to go look it back up. Yeah, so it's I'm reading now. It's 1 CP. Use at the beginning of the fight phase. You pick an enemy unit in engagement range with a character or core unit. So core is these things, pretty much anything with the infantry keyword, and Castellan robots that are near their elite character, because the elite character makes them core. That enemy unit fights last. That's the 1 CP strat. So if you are playing against a mono melee opponent and you just shove like 6 Sidonian Dragoons at them, they have to charge that unit with 2 melee threats that can wipe them out. Because if you charge them with 1, they're just going to spend a command point and kill it. And you're going to feel like an idiot. This stratagem concerns me. Given the way 9th edition plays, it's so melee oriented. You're just always if you want to kill Admech in melee, you have to just constantly be having the fact of the stratagem exists in the back of your head, and not in the back of your head. Actually, your whole game plan's based around this thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
I would think so. Yeah.
I watched a game where I think it was 6 of the Admech players' command points were used on the stratagem.
Yeah.
Every time it felt like.
Well, only 5, right? Because it's 5 battle rounds.
There's 2 fight phases for battle round.
Oh my goodness, I'm bad at math. Yep. That's how that works. Carry on.
I mean, admittingly, the best is like when your opponent charges into you and all of a sudden, like, you fool 1 CP. But like
Yeah.
ongoing fights happen.
Yeah, sometimes you just like, yeah, you're an ongoing fight. You make that happen last. Sometimes you want to charge a Judicar. Mhm. Like, yeah, opponent's got a bunch of Space Wolf Terminators and Judicar next to them. All right, like, I guess the Judicar can fight, but those Space Wolves are going to fight afterwards. Like, it's so silly. This track concerns me. For the most part in this book, things are good. It's complicated, which is fine. Complexity in the codex is reasonable, especially for an army that's supposed to be like about silly esoteric data codes. This strat concerns me.
This strat being
but-
1 CP concerns me.
I can't believe it's 1 CP. It's like mind-boggling that it's 1 CP.
I would be fine if it was 1 CP if it were like on something like Electro Priest only could take it. Like,
Yeah.
don't get me wrong, it would be good for Electro Priest. Like, Electro Priests are already like a very good melee threat, but like at least it's like limited to what you can see. It's like it's literally 90% of the book that wants to be in melee can use it.
Yeah, while the book wants to be in melee, there's a sub-faction in the book that's literally just Blood Angels. Like, +1 to charge and +1 to wounds on the charge.
Which one is that, Ryza?
Yeah, and also of note, there's a one of the mechanicals is you charge on 2d6. So they're charging on you charge on 3d6, drop the lowest. So they can like deep strike Castellan punchy robots and then put them on the table, and then they're charging on 3d6 +1, and just like they're in melee, and Castellan robots are core, so you're fighting last. Like all of the bad things are happening.
I don't know if the Castellan robots are that aura. Is it an aura of your core if you're within range of the elite character, or is it okay?
Yeah. And he also benefits from mechanicals, so he can just like charge in there with them. It's like he's gonna die. The thing he just charged is fighting last.
Did they have Castellan robots? I haven't looked into them much. Are they still have like the 3 modes, and you have to switch to them in the? I'm assuming now in the command phase.
Yeah, so their modes are a little different. But they still like average out to like punch better, fight better, take hits better. They toned it down a bit. I believe it's now +1 to hit instead of do it twice, because do it twice was like impossible to balance.
It's effectively +1, I think. I'm reading it right now.
I hope the downside for the shooting one is a little bit less then.
Still think it might be you can't move.
Yeah, it's you can't move except the pilot and consolidate. Everybody has ballistic skill of 3 up. Conqueror protocol. Well, this protocol is active. You can reroll charges, and you hit in melee on 2s. And then Aegis protocol, you have a 2-up save.
All right, that's what I wanted to see. Before it was really stupid because they couldn't pile in. So like, I've seen a lot of situations. A few times when I played against Castellan robots, I got them into melee, and all of a sudden I was doing this like dance around them because they could never get closer and they could never fight with more than one. It was not fun for them.
Yeah, the fists. So yeah, the fists are now +1 attack, so they're 4 attacks each, and it's at 10 neg 3/3. And if you switch to the punching mode, it's hitting on 2s. So they're killy. They'll pop you.
Yeah, you can catch them on the back foot, but you better like do some damage and then get out of there, because
Well, you can't charge them; you have to shoot them. You fight last, they kill you.
No, they're not Cult Mechanicus core though, unless
but
you have
they have an elite character that gives them the core keyword, so you can make them core. I don't know if it's worth jumping through all these hoops, but it's just like one more thing to think about.
It's a tool in your back pocket. It's a very powerful tool in the back pocket.
I mean, if you're putting it in your list, it's not really in your back pocket. It's just happening. And actually, let's talk about. All right, there's a couple more stratagems I think that are probably worth talking about. Actually, just so there's a stratagem where you can pick a unit of the jump pack guys, and at the end of your turn, you put them back into deep strike. I think there needs to be a limitation put on the stratagem that just you can't do it on a unit that just came into play this turn, because what's going to end up happening is you put your guys down, you shoot them, and then you pick them back up, and then you tell your opponent to go. And that's probably not okay. Like the first couple times you do it, it'll be fine. But like we've all seen how games go. Like by the time we started getting to the end of the game, like you're just not gonna be able to protect your backlines from these like 9 deep striking flamethrowers because it's gonna be the flamethrower ones because they need no character support to be excellent. Um, I don't know. I just think that one needs to probably get limited to like not the turn that they got put on the table because you will literally never be able to deal with that unless you're a faction that has Auspex skin.
Yeah, I mean, it's basically like what Swooping Hawks like should be, right?
Yeah, probably. And then the last strat I want to talk about, I don't think it's particularly important now, but it will be important in, I don't know, 5 years when they finally print the Imperial Knight Codex and they figure out what they want knights to look like. If you successfully wound a vehicle with an arc weapon, you can spend 1 CP or 2 of its Titanic and pretend that vehicle is at half of its wound profile. It's bracketed basically until your next turn, without actually having to like bring it down below half of its wounds. And arc weapons always wound vehicles in force. So it's like you shoot a couple arc weapons at the vehicle, you successfully wound. I believe you have to actually have the vehicle lose wounds to the attack. Right now, kind of whatever. There's not really a ton of huge vehicles in the meta, and I think for the most part, Admech are going to just be like popping vehicles off the table, because the vehicles I currently see play. But a lot of Admech lists are just going to be like a bunch of Strength 7 guns, and I wouldn't be surprised if, or when the Knight Codex comes out, if Knights end up being extremely pushed, if Admech starts putting like arc weapons on squad leaders just to like push Knights down a bracket so they can ignore them for a turn as they hobble across the table. It's just something to think about. All right.
What's the name of that stratagem?
I think it's called Haywire or Short Circuited.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about the Holy Orders. So there's 4 of them. Basically, you can upgrade a Tech Priest with this. They make one of your stratagems cost 1 CP less. They kind of do the song and dance if it's like a specific stratagem, but it turns out over the course of most games, you've used every stratagem. So functionally, you're buying an extra command point. Not every stratagem, but every type of stratagem. So functionally, you get 1 command point for buying one of these guys into your army. And we've already discussed that like we'd probably be willing to spend points on command points in general, and then Admech are already particularly command point hungry. They also get 2 abilities. One ability is like the basic ability that they start with, and then they can do an action to upgrade their basic ability into the advanced ability in the next turn. I actually believe that they have to take a turn off of interacting with the game to get to the advanced ability, which is kind of interesting. But the advanced ability isn't necessarily better; it's just very different. And for some of these, the advanced ability is the one you want, and for some of them, the basic ability is what you want. So you'll probably just like make a decision on which tech priest gets which ability based on like, all right, the ones that I want advanced abilities on, like which tech priest aura can I take a turn off of having without feeling like I'm losing too much. So there's 2 that jump out to me as incredible, and then the third one that is good. So the low guy are insane. I think they're going to be in every single list. Their first ability is you pick a core unit within 6 inches, and you ignore AP1 and AP2 for that unit.
That was the ability I was talking about earlier.
Yeah, that their second, you can upgrade it into pick a unit, it ignores cover, whatever. You're never upgrading it. You're just going to keep it at every turn, pick a unit, ignore AP1, ignore AP2. And yeah, I don't know what else to say. That's just incredible.
I'm kind of shocked, to be honest. Like,
yeah, this is 35 points, gain a command point, and ignore AP1 and 2 on your favorite unit every turn.
Yeah.
And this is as they're like upping the power level of all of the 8-point infantry units, but also making them go up to 20-man squads. I'm just like, check my head at this.
Yeah, and like even if it's not the 30-man infantry squads, like what if it's just like a 6-man chicken walker unit that you've given +1 on saves with shout some? Like, my goodness, like, my goodness,
that's a fucking terror.
All right, the next one is the Magi. These are 30 points. Again, 30 points. You have a command point. It almost doesn't need more text, but it does. It has it. The normal ability is you pick a core unit. It gets +2 to advanced rolls. This is fine. This is not a bad ability. But we're interested in the advanced ability, which is pick a core unit, range attacks for that unit, double hit on 6s. Something assault 6 autocannons.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's worth. When do you start having to do this action? Is it in the command
Command
you
phase.
do the action in the command phase.
Okay.
So basically, whatever your magi like character is, like they're deactivated for basically the first turn.
Yeah. If you're picking this one, you're doing this in the first battle round. You actually still get to pick the way it's worded. You still get to pick a unit for the normal ability, but
That's
just
what I
all your
want.
all your other abilities get turned off. So like he's gonna get to pick a unit to move 2 extra inches on an advance, and then hit whatever of these things. Its auras won't matter, for a turn, and then when it gets back to you, he can start giving guys 6s to hit explode. The last one is the Artisan. It's 25 points for a command point, which is, cheap. So you're almost already, if you have the 3rd tech priest in your list, you're probably just doing this anyway. This is what makes the Castellan robot character a little bit more interesting, is that he is a tech priest. And I think you're going to want pretty much as many characters in your list as you can get without actually spending command points on them. Pick a core servitor unit. It can charge or shoot if it falls back this turn. If it shoots, it's at -1, whatever. This upgrades to pick a core unit. It gets +1 strength with its ranged weapons. Again, 20-man Skitarii infantry units. Or, alternatively, strength 8 autoguns. Wound Marines on 2s.
That's actually what I was about to say.
Yeah, they're insane. These are not close. Actually, that's not true. The Space Marine upgrade your guys' abilities were very good, but these are giving Space Marines a run for their money.
I mean, in some ways,
the Space Marine ones cost you command points. These ones give you command points.
Yeah, I mean, some of them kind of give you command points because it gives you access to a warlord trait that makes your best stratagem for that upgrade free, or 1 less. So on the long run, it could give you more, but this is like command points with a lot less work.
Yeah. That's it for the 4 holy orders. I wouldn't be shocked, honestly, if people were just bring all 4. Like, yeah, if you want to put 4 tech priests in your list, get 4 extra command points. That is going to be all your HQ slots, and I think you're always going to want to bring a Skitarii Marshal. In any list that's bringing Skitarii, which is going to be pretty much every list that's not like the servitor defense core thing.
So
I think this book is gonna get a lot of people. Like, we saw Drukhari players, trying, not just taking a single battalion detachment like everybody else. I think this is gonna be the other army that really has people like just not doing just a single battalion.
Well, Drukhari was doing that because they got extra command points for bringing 3 patrols.
Right. I mean, but like this is doing it for like a different reason, where like you want all of those HQ slots. You actually need those slots.
Yeah.
Or like, the Janitors, like, as like the weakest holy order, like it's still not bad. You're still paying 25 points to get a CP, and if you're got a bunch of actually no, this one kind of sucks because it only works on
it only works in Cataphrons. If you're bringing Cataphrons, you'll bring a Janitor, but if you're not, then you're gonna leave them at home. So let's talk about the warlord traits for a second. I feel like I've been talking a lot. Kevin, do you want to take over on warlord traits?
I could not get an easy access.
Fair enough. All right. So warlord traits are fascinating because there's 2 pages of them. There's one for tech priests and there's one for Skitarii. And all of the tech priest warlord traits, or almost all of them, are like the tech priest upgrading themselves, which, if we're gonna say one bad thing about the Admech codex, is that you're not playing Hero Hammer. Like, your tech priests are not walking around the table murdering tanks with their axes. Like, you'll kill 3 primaries, like Space Marines, and you'll be happy about it. Like, that's about all you're gonna get at your characters as far as like actual fight.
That being said, for the tech priest warlord traits, I mean, Necromechanic probably has the most like force multiplier value here, and it's not even really force multiplier. You're just healing shit better. You're just healing 3 wounds instead of D3.
Yeah, the two that jump out to me is like that are going to see the most play. Necromechanic if you're bringing vehicles. But there's one where you just pick a core unit, and that core unit can deep strike. I believe it's core infantry, so you're not putting.
No, it's just
chicken.
core cult
Is it really?
mechanicus.
Okay, cool.
Yes.
So you can put chicken walkers to deep strike if you want to, because I think we've determined chicken walkers might be the best thing in the book.
Yeah, so if you don't want to play Forge World Lucius and you want to put your chicken walkers in a deep strike, just take a warlord trait.
Yeah. Alternatively, as much as we have said with every single thing in this book, 20 is Skitarii infantry. The other thing that is pretty cool for them is they have like a chapter master warlord trait, but it triggers the beginning of the fight phase and it only rerolls for attacks and melee. Every faction is not going to bring this, but Rise is loving this. Like the fact that you can have your like shooty reroll, like your oh my goodness, the Dominus, the guy who rerolls like the normal captain guy. He can hang out in the back of your army with like whatever guns you've chosen to bring, and then you can just have like an engine seer running forward with your melee dudes, but like just giving them full rerolls. Like you can just without having to pay for the full Dominus,
which is
that's
insane.
Excellent. The Skitarii. Yeah. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I'm just saying, like that's insane. You just stack that with the rest of like Rises, so you've got like that one guy in the back with all of like your upgunned plasma guns, and then you got the engine seer in the front with your whatever melee threats are getting +1 to wound and re-rolling all of your hits.
Yeah. Now the Skitarii warlord traits are all interesting because they all have the exact same format. They're all at the beginning of your command phase. Pick a Skitarii core unit. The target parameters are a little different for some of them, but it's usually Skitarii core. Some of them can hit Cataphrons within 9 inches of the guy, or anything with a data tether anywhere on the table, and then ability. The two that jump out to me as most interesting, there's fallback and shoot on a core unit. And then the one that's going to, I think, just be in every army is give a unit light cover. If it's already in light cover, it instead gets +2 in saves. So this is just +1 in saves for Skitarii core. And is that one core infantry or is that one just core, Chris?
Core.
Okay, yeah. So again, chicken walkers, 2-up saves, ignore AP 1 and 2, strength 8, 6 to explode. Like you can just go nuts on the things you can stack on that unit. That's it for the things that like jump out at the book as like these are things that are just I think we're all just going to see in a lot of lists. But holy crap, there's so many ways to play this book.
Yeah, there's just so much complexity and depth to this that like we said earlier, somebody's going to come out of left field with some weird build a year from now and make a very solid run at like SoCal or Atlantic City. We didn't even touch on relics, did we?
No, I there's a lot going on there, but I think we've thrown enough at our viewers. We could just talk about what we've talked about so far.
I think we could just like probably touch real quick on faction specific secondaries.
Oh yeah, the secondaries. That's fair.
Yeah, so the first one is a purge the enemy one. It's called like accretion of knowledge. Basically, you score 3 points at the end of each round, at the end of the battle, for each destroyed enemy model that meets one of the more of the following criteria. So you get 3 points for killing somebody with a warlord trait, somebody with a relic, and somebody with a model that has vehicle and more than 14 wounds.
Like it'll come up that you want it, but not super often.
So,
yeah, this is really just another. I feel like this is more of a character hunter one, just because you're trying to be sniping like guys with traits and relics.
So you say that it doesn't say character, right? It just says something.
It says model, just a model with a relic or a model with a trait.
So it's important to note that Admech have some really good relic that you can put on your sergeants that you might actually be doing. I'm also pretty sure. Unfortunately, I don't have the book. Can someone confirm? Is there a stratagem that gives a warlord trait to Skitarii units, like the non-characters?
I believe that there was. Let me look.
I guess it's also important to note, right, that like other factions do, now that you say it, are like a lot of the Death Guard and Drakari lists we're seeing do put a relic on a sergeant or two.
I mean, I do.
And that's fair. You're also getting points for killing that squad. You're gonna get points for killing big vehicles. Yeah.
Yeah,
Uh,
I can't find the
uh,
stratagem, but like I'm pretty sure I saw it.
Like, if we can get like 12 out of a purge, that's a pretty
Yeah.
good
That's great.
purge secretary. Like that's above what
Yeah.
everyone else is getting.
It's not gonna be every game, but it'll certainly come up.
Right.
Yeah, and if you're
One
bringing like the arquebuses in your Skatari squads too, yeah, I think this one has some play.
Yeah, the one that scares me is the I believe you're only allowed to score it if you have a vehicle on the table. And at the end of every battle round, you get 3 points if you've destroyed more infantry units than your opponent has destroyed vehicle units.
Yeah,
Is it
yeah.
vehicle units or vehicle models?
Let's see. Score 3 VP if there's at least one Admech vehicle from your army, and if your units have killed more infantry that round, then they have
Infantry
killed
models or infantry units?
units.
Okay.
Oh god, if it was models, like that's an
No,
awkward
but
take.
is it vehicle models or vehicle units?
Vehicle units.
Yeah, okay. So yeah, you're not getting punished for your chicken walker squads. Yeah, that one just seems like the one that Admech's taking almost every game.
Yeah. Just keep in mind this is score 3 points at the end of each round. So to max this, you got to get this every round,
Yeah,
which
you
I
have to.
don't think is difficult. Um, Chat's asking, does Knight of the Cog count for that secondary? Does Knight of the
It,
Cog have Admech vehicle?
no.
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 Okay. Then no, it wouldn't. Because otherwise, yeah, just bring a Knight Castellan. It,
I think that one's incredible.
yeah, I think that one really rewards building towards a certain way. Even if
Does it?
I mean, if you're just bringing a bunch of vehicles, yeah, I would say so. A bunch of like if you're bringing a bunch of chicken walkers in like big squads, because
But that's not how it actually plays because you need a single vehicle on the table to score the secondary, and it's just did you kill enemy infantry? It's not. I don't believe it's asking you to kill them with vehicles, is it?
No.
no, it's
Yeah.
not. You know, not now that you say it like that,
So
you're
like,
right.
I don't know, if I have 3 chicken walkers hiding in my back corner, you can't kill them because they're vehicles. It would like because they're behind a building or something. If I kill 2 infantry units, then I'm doing it. If I kill one
Is it
infantry
on
unit,
the
I'm doing it.
table or in your army?
It's on the table.
It says on the table.
Yep.
So you're kind of incentivized to like that. Like this is the secondary that scares me when people are gonna be like, I'm bringing like 5 20-man blocks of infantry and then like 2 5-man blocks of chicken walkers. The chicken walkers are gonna like sit in the back. Once one of them gets down to like 2 dudes, it's gonna like just hide behind a building so you can never kill it. And I'll always have a vehicle on the table. At some point, you'll kill one vehicle, and that'll be the one turn I need to kill 2 units to score points on this. You're gonna spend the whole game shooting at infantry that are not worth that like don't actually stop me from scoring the secondary because the secondary is like it needed to be vehicles. It should have been vehicles need to get the kills so that you're actually forced to bring a bunch of vehicle units. But it's just like have a vehicle on the table and it can just be like something hiding in the back.
Yeah, you could bring a single Scorpius and just hang out.
Yeah, they don't even. That's actually a perfect example because Scorpiuses have indirect fire.
Yep.
Can like literally just participate in the game without ever risking itself. Um, yeah. So there's another one, but I think we can just call it there because that's the one that is going to see a lot of play.
Yeah, the 2 Battlefield Supremacy ones are weird.
The classic weird battlefield supremacy ones. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're just like whatever.
Yeah, one of them is
Based on
basically like, hey, give a list of objectives that are going to be important to you so your opponent can counter deploy
Oh yeah,
against it.
yeah. You number objectives, and at the end of each battle round, you have to be holding the objective with the right number on it. So like, first of all, it doesn't even max out, and missions that only have 4 objectives. That one's actually fine though, like because like if you have 2 objectives in your zone and one in the middle of the table, and just as long as you know that you're gonna be able to push the middle of the table on like turn 2, that's 9 points. That's like fine. But I don't really see you taking that one over like if my opponent put infantry in their army, I get 3 points.
Yeah.
Depends on if your Admech can actually engage. I
Think your Admech
depends on the mission.
engage.
I could see. I feel like you could concoct a scenario where it is correct to take that one over.
Sure.
I mean,
you can concoct scenarios for a lot of this book to be relevant in the right situations, but I think the killing one is going to be more relevant more often than the hand your opponent a list of important things to you.
So
I'll give you a scenario. Ready? You're playing against that chaos list that's all armigers, Morty, Armon, and Magnus, or Morty, Armon, Patrol, and then a bunch of armigers. You
Oranges
get
have
to get
14 or do they have 12
12?
what? 12.
wounds?
12.
Yeah, okay.
Why?
Oh, because they get under the 14 wound thing for the 3 points per baby you kill.
Yeah. And so in that one, you only have probably the 10-man cultist unit to get one eradicate flesh, and then the rest of it you're not getting it. So then
Sure.
you're going to hold objectives. I That's a real list.
No, that's
That's
super
not
fair. All right, so I've been doing a lot of the talking, so I'm gonna ask a question of you two, and then I think we should probably close it out.
Okay.
So, given what we've all talked about today and the current list that you guys are playing, Death Watch and Chris, you and White Scars or Death Guard these days?
I've been doing more Death Guard.
Okay, so from Death Watch and Death Guard, 2 different armies, we promise. How are you guys seeing your Admech matchup like on day one? Are you concerned about it? Do you think it's gonna be fine? What's one strength you think you have against them? What's one weakness you think you have against them?
um
Whoever's Kevin, go.
so I want to note one thing. I think right now I see a pure melee Ryza build, a combo um Lucius plus Mars build as like kind of a um shooty and then push up hold list, and then a pure shooty admech list. I haven't decided on the faction there yet. There's a lot of options. Um I wouldn't. I could not build a Death Watch list that could beat all 3 of those. They would play all very differently, and I don't like. I could probably build one that could play well into have a good matchup against one, and then like okay matchups against the other 2.
You think they're just more efficient than your list is right now?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah,
So
my I,
I know no one's gonna feel sorry for me, but I'm actually concerned that Space Marines are gonna be pushed out of like contention once what's the third book in so it was Jakari
Sisters.
Sisters, yeah, once Sisters comes out. Very
Yeah, I
sure
think
Space Marines.
sisters are going to be heinously dangerous for Space Marines.
Yeah.
oh yeah.
Um so I have slight concerns that Space Marines are gonna be pushed down, and Death Watch is like not the top tier Space Marines isn't gonna actually be a valid choice.
All
Not
right.
a great choice right now. I think it's gonna be even less valid moving
All right,
forward.
Chris. One strength you think you have against them, one weakness you think you have against them.
Uh, one strength. I can't even say resilience against them because ignoring AP -1 and 2 and just whatever you want, is ridiculous. One strength. I can't.
All right, I'll give it
I,
to you. How about making all their infantry toughness 2?
yeah. All right. All right. That part. Making all of their infantry toughness 2 is a pretty solid strength, especially with some of the more popular Death Guard builds right now, which include a lot of Plague Spurt Gauntlets, which are strength 3, and Combi Bolters, which are strength 4 and wounding on 2s. It's a lot of the issues with Death Guard shooting is that it tends to be low strength, low AP, but you do have like a pretty decent amount of it. So up against Admech, your contagion stuff turns that high quantity shooting into a little bit of quality shooting as well. Not amazing, but it's certainly a lot better than how it was doing against you in your other matchups. Um, One weakness is that fucking stratagem electroshocked for fight last. That fighting last is like a big danger for Death Guard because yes, things like Death Guard Terminators are very tough and they can take a hell of a lot of hits, and but the weakness of them being uh, high toughness, low armor save, high wound models is that they die by your enemy forcing you to try to make saves. So if I can't, get a swing in before you swing back at me, and that would allow me to try to reduce the number of saves that I've got to make it, on the other end of it. Um, it just takes one, not even like terribly bad swing, just like one, bad swing of the dice, and your Terminators are significantly weakened, if not dead. So yeah, I think that's the biggest weakness, is just having that fight last be an ever-present threat.
One thing I think you do have going for you, though, is that Admech do have some heinous anti-tank shooting, but I think they're all going to be looking to bring all the autocannons and the 2 damage melee weapons, which is real nice for Death Guard.
It is, and it, mitigates a lot of Admet's strengths in that regard. But again, it's the way you beat Death Guard is, try to force them to make saves, and Admech definitely has the tools to make Death Guard, try to make a lot of saves.
All right. With that,
chat's asking, does Mortarion have a wound loss cap? I don't know, because I don't actually play Mortarion.
No, he does not. You can kill him in 1 turn.
All right, so
yeah, I mean, it is legal to attempt to kill him in 1 turn.
Any closing thoughts from you guys?
Concern.
Yeah, I'm reiterating my point from earlier. I'm just hoping that the answer to Drukhari isn't a worse threat.
That being said, we are getting points changed. Sorry, I just totally cut you off. We are getting a point change document, and if that just brings the efficiency of everything else up, then it's fine.
Well, then I look at their initial bumping everything up 10% as, why did you do that if you're immediately going to remove that?
That is fair. I got nothing for you there.
Yes.
You got a Tau Shield drone? Oh, no, you couldn't afford that.
Yeah, man, not for 20 points, I can't.
All right. Well, let's close it out. Thank you, everybody, for listening to this week's show. I hope you enjoyed it. I'd like to thank my co-hosts for this episode, Kevin Lieb and Benjamin Rubenstein. This has been the 3D6 Charge podcast. Bye for now, and don't roll any ones.
Hit that like button, ring that bell.
Thank you, Kevin.